So welcome to, this is a 2017 question 12 that came up, and the first thing we're asked to do is factorize this. So if we want to factorize this, well, first thing, there's two different ways of factorize. This is a quadratic, firstly, because there's something squared, something that thing that doesn't have a square, and then a constant. So say if we had x squared x and a number, well, that'd also be a quadratic. It just happens to be n here. So we're looking for, say if there's just one n here. So if there's anything other than 1 here for in front of our n squared, well, then we have to solve it a bit different way. So, but the way, if there's just a 1 there, we can solve it kind of the easier way. So say it's going to be the factors of the last one, factors of this, what doesn't have an x, factors of 18, that when we pair them together, they add to give minus 11. So because 18 is a positive, we could have multiplied a plus and a plus to get that plus, or we could have multiplied a minus and a minus to get plus 18, but we couldn't have multiplied by a minus by a plus because that would have given us a minus. So we could have got a plus and a plus to get 18, and we could have got a minus by a minus to get 18. So the factors of 18, the first one would be, say, 18 by 1, but we also could have got two minuses, so we could also have minus 18 by minus 1. Then we could have had 9 by 2, but we also could have had minus 9 by minus 2. Then we could have had 6 by 3, but we also could have had minus 6 by minus 3. And say the pair that work together, if we put them together to give minus 11, so if we have minus 9 minus 2, well, that gives me minus 11. So my first one will be x minus 9, and then it'll be x minus 2. And they've just asked me to factorize, so I'm going to leave it at that. Because that's it, factorize. So and then so the next question that is on this, and so this is called, that was quadratics, and then the next one is so B, so we want to factorize this wy minus y minus 1 plus w. So the four different ways of factorizing are highest common factor, and then we have difference of two squares, then we have grouping, and then we have quadratics. What we saw up here was just quadratics, and now this, generally when we have four terms and there's not a common kind of thing that we can factorize in each of the terms, we do grouping. So we factorize the first two and factorize the last two, and then we see if we can get our brackets matching. So if we are to factorize, so sometimes we have to try and get our brackets matching. So say if we were to take out y from this, then we'd have w minus 1, and say if we were to take out a 1 from this, then we'd have minus 1 plus w. But minus 1 plus w is kind of the same as w minus 1, so we could have just wrote that. Instead, we could have just had wy minus y plus w minus 1. We could have just changed the order. And then if we were to, it's just going to be y and then w minus 1 plus 1 w minus 1. So this is just me putting the w in a different place, so the brackets will look exactly the same. So then the one in front of the two brackets go together in a bracket, so the y plus 1 go together, and then only when my brackets are matching that I know I've done it right, and they go together in another bracket by itself, so w minus 1. So the next thing I'm asked to do, part C, is, so I have to find the value of 3x minus 2 minus 7, 6x minus 12 when x is equal to 4. So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to plug in x is equal to 4. So 5 over 3 by 4 minus 2 minus 7 by 6 by 4 minus 12. So 3 by 4 is 12, take 2 minus 7, 6 by 4 is 24, take 12, so that's 5 over 10 minus 7 over 12. So if I'm to do that out, so we can get a common denominator, or we can just maybe do it on our calculator. When I do that out, I get that x so it's equal to minus 1/12, so minus 1/12. And then so just see if there's another part, and then the next part of that question is use factorization to simplify. So say if we have any variable, say if we have an x, say if we have an n, say if we have an e, it's all the same as long as, say if we have a quadratic, we just have to have something with an x squared, something with an x, and something that doesn't have an x. But we could also have something with an n squared, something with an n, and something that doesn't have an n. We could have also had something with an e squared, something with an e, and something that doesn't have an e, and it would all still be quadratics as long as it has the thing squared, that thing without a square, and something that doesn't have that thing at all. So something squared, that thing again, and then something that doesn't have it. So the first thing I'm looking at here is, so if I want to do this out, say I want to use factorization to simplify, so I'm going to have to factorize the top part and the second part. So if I want to factorize the top part, 4e squared minus 9, well, I'm going through what ways can I factorize. Well, I can do highest common factor, so that's when I can take out something that's common to both of them, and there's nothing common to both of them except 1, so that mightn't be the one I use. I can use grouping. So grouping is when, say, usually we have 4 terms, we only have 2 terms here, so I don't think I'm going to use grouping. And then the next one, I have difference of 2 squares, and quadratics. So quadratics. So difference of 2 squares is when we have one thing squared minus another thing squared. So we have to learn off that, say if we have, say, an x and that's all squared minus another thing and that's all squared, we just have to learn this, that it's the first thing minus the second thing and then the first thing plus the second thing. So that's important. But the other important thing to know is that it has to be one thing squared minus another thing squared. But we can write this thing here as one thing squared minus another thing squared. So 4e, if we want to write the first thing all squared, well, we could write that as 2e, and that's all squared, because that would be 4e squared. And we can write this 9 as 3 squared. So then we have it in this form, so it's the first thing, which is 2e minus 3, and then the first thing plus the second thing, 2e plus 3. So that's the first one factorized. And then the next one is 2e squared plus 3e minus 9. So this one is quadratic because it has an e squared and e and something doesn't have an e. So there's 2 different ways we can factorize quadratics. The first one is the guide number method. So I'm going to go through the guide number method and then I'm going to do the box method that some people do. So the guide number method is when we multiply the thing in front of the square, the e squared, by the thing that doesn't have an e, and we get what we call a guide number, and we call that minus 18 because 2 by minus 9 is minus 18. Then we're looking for the factors of our minus 18 that add to give our middle number. So the factors of minus 18, well, because it's a minus, if I multiplied 2 minuses together, I would have got a plus. If I multiplied 2 pluses together, I would have got a plus. But the only way I could have got a minus is if I multiplied a minus and a plus together. So minus 18, I would have had to multiply a minus and a plus. So 18 by minus 1 minus 18 by 1, I could have had 9 by minus 2, or minus 9 by 2, I could have had 6 by minus 3, or minus 6 by 3. So I'm looking for the factors, the pair of factors that add to give the middle number. So the pair, so if I have 18 minus 1 is 17, this is minus 17, 9 take 2 is 7, minus 9 plus 2 is minus 7, 6 take 3, well, that one will work. So instead of writing 3e, I'm going to split it into 6e minus 3e, because 6e minus 3e is 3e anyway, so 2e squared. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to group. It's kind of like grouping now, so I group the first 2 and the second 2, and my brackets have to be matching. So if I take what's common that I can take out of both of them, well, the highest number that will divide into 2 and 6 is 2, and then the letter that has both of them is e, because e squared is just e multiplied by e. So I can take out e, and then I'm left with e plus 3. So say in this one, if I take out a plus 3, so plus 3 looks like the only thing I can take out. So then I'm left with minus e minus 3. But then my brackets aren't matching. But if I take out minus 3, then I'll be left with e plus 3, because whatever is here so whatever is here by here has to add to give the top one, and here by here has to add to give that one. So I'm going to have to take out minus 3, and it'll be e plus 3. So then it'll be 2e minus 3, so 2e minus 3, and then e plus 3. I'm also going to do it, so that's the guide number method. But I'm also going to do it the other way that some people learn how to do it in schools. So plus 3e minus 9. So what to do is we get two brackets. So say we put our x, so we put our e in one, and then a 2e in the other. So e in one, and then we're looking for the factors of minus 9 that add to give the middle, that say the factors of minus 9 when multiplied by either e and 2e will add to give the middle number. So say if I had factors of minus 9, I could have had minus 9 and 1, I could have had 9 and minus 1, and I could have had 3 and minus 3. So say if I had 3 here and then minus 3 here. So then that would be 2e by 3, so that would be 6e, and then e by minus 3 would be minus 3e, so that would work also. So then that would be e plus 3, and then 2e minus 3. So that's doing it both ways. So now I'm going to put back, so I'm going to go back to my question. So I got, my question was 4e squared minus 9 over 2e squared plus 3e minus 9. So when I factorize the first part, the 4e, when I factorize this, it was a difference of 2 squares, and I got 2e minus 3, 2e plus 3. So the first part was 2e minus 3, 2e plus 3. And then when I factorized the second one, I got 2e minus 3e plus 3. So 2e minus 3e plus 3. So when I'm multiplying by the exact same thing on the top and on the bottom, I can cancel. So I'm multiplying by the exact same thing on the top here, because multiplying by a number and the exact same thing on the top and the bottom will just be 1. So that thing divided by itself is just 1. So 2e minus 3 over 2e minus 3, so they're going to cancel. And then I'm left with, so these can cancel because these aren't the exact same thing multiplied by on the top and the bottom. So 2e plus 3 and e plus 3. And that is my answer for that. So the next one I want to go on to is it's kind of like a longish question. So the next one is a rectangle has sides of length. So this is part E from question 12. So a rectangle has sides of length x minus 3. So we have a rectangle here, and the area is 2x cubed minus 13x squared plus 25x minus 12. So that's the area of the rectangle. And one side they're telling me, so I'll just write out the question. Rectangle has sides of length x minus 3 units and ax squared plus bx plus c units, so units, where a, b, c is an element of z. That just means a, b, and c are integers. The area of the rectangle is 2x cubed minus 30. So 2x cubed minus 13x squared plus 25x minus 12. So 2x cubed minus 13x squared, 2x cubed minus 13x squared plus 25x minus 12. So, and that's find the value of a, b, and c. Find the value of a, b, and c. So this is a diagram they give me. This is x minus 3, and this length here, so I'll just write it. So this length here was ax, so I'll just actually do a better one. So the whole area, so the area is 2x cubed minus 13x squared plus 25x minus, so that's minus 12. So then this is x minus 3, and this length here is so ax squared plus bx plus c. So one thing I should note, that say this is my width. Let's call this the width. So this is the width. This is the length. If I multiply my width by my length, I get my area. Say the only thing that I don't have is this, and I'm trying to figure out this. Say that's the length. Well, if I have the width and the area, the length, say if we divide both sides by w, the length is equal to the area divided by the width. But I know what the area is, so that's 2x cubed minus 3x squared plus 25x minus 12. And I know what the width is, which is x minus 3. So if I divide those two, I'll get this length. So I'm going to have to do long division. So that's long division. So if you thought that we do long division, you're exactly right. So x minus 3 and then 2x cubed minus 13x squared plus 25x and then minus 12. So then I have to think, well, what do I have to multiply the x by to get 2x cubed, or divide x into 2x cubed and we get 2x squared, and we put that up here. Then we multiply our 2x squared by our x and by our minus 3 and put them on this line. So 2x squared by x will be 2x cubed. 2x squared by minus 3 will be minus 6x squared. And then what I have to do, I have to minus my bottom line. So if I multiply anything by a minus, if I multiply a minus by a minus, it becomes a plus. If I multiply a minus by a plus, it becomes a minus. So basically I'm just changing the signs. So that becomes a minus, that becomes a plus. So then it's minus 13x, and then so minus 2x cubed minus 2x cubed, well that's just going to cancel. Minus 13x squared plus 6x squared, so that's going to be minus 7x squared. And then I have to say, well, what to divide minus 7x squared by x, and that's just minus 7 x, and then I have to multiply my 7 by my x and my 7 by my minus 3. So my minus 7 by my x and my minus 7 by minus 3. So minus 7 by x is minus 7x squared. Minus 7 by minus 3 is plus 21x. And then what I have to do is I have to bring down my 25. So plus 25x. So then I have to subtract my second line, so that becomes a plus, that becomes a minus. So this will cancel because it's minus 7x squared plus 7x squared. So that's 25x minus 21x. So that's going to be 4x. And then I have to say, well, what do I have to divide 4x by x? And I get plus 4. And then 4 by x gives me 4x, 4 by minus 3 gives me minus 12. And I have to bring down this minus 12 from here. And then if I subtract my second line, I get that I have a remainder of 0 because everything cancels out. So then what happens is so I was asked for A, B, and C. So well, this here must be the length. So this is the length because I figured out if I divide the area by the width, I get the length. So the length is equal to 2x squared minus 7x plus 4. And they had the length in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And they asked me to find the values of a, b, and c. So I'm just going to have to say a is equal to 2. B is equal to minus 7, and then C is equal to 4. And that is our question. Thank you.